This is M-Wire, Movie Week in Review. M-Wire is brought to you by Audible.com. Sign up today to get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/geekcastradio. Start today with a free 30-day trial with over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter at audible_com. And now the latest and greatest in movies with M-Wire.
Who is she? You know, I think I recognize the costume.
The question remains, just who on earth are you?
On earth, I'm Lee. Linda Lee.
Why don't you just leave this poor kid alone and worry about the other one that flies? Because nobody gets in my way.
Wait a minute, wait 1 minute. I mean, you can do the whole number, leap tall buildings at a single bound, and look right through things.
Yes.
Bend steel bars?
Yes.
Enjoy your prison, Supergirl. Forever and ever. Power of Shadow! Destroy her!
Alexander Salkind presents the action-packed adventures of a dazzling new superhero, starring Peter O'Toole,
I must be sent to the Phantom Zone.
Faye Dunaway, Mia Farrow,
Venus. When?
Linda Vaccaro, Mark McClure,
That's Clark Kent's cousin.
Art Bachner, and introducing Helen Slater as Supergirl. Adventure runs in the family.
Hello and welcome to the DC Spotlight Volume 2 M-Wire Spotlight on the Superman Girl Trends films, something, I don't know. Which is brought to you by the Geekcast Radio Network. I am one of your hosts, Steve, Joe, and Mike, and joining me is JT from Saskatoon. Hello.
How you doing? And you could say it's the super family with this episode.
Yeah, I was going a little more blue. But we are covering Supergirl from 1984. Honestly, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here, I'm surprised she hasn't gotten a live-action reboot. I'm honestly very surprised.
You know, the closest they've come is Smallville, and
Yeah,
they didn't do too badly there.
No, we'll talk about that at the end of the episode, but no, we're here to talk about Supergirl in the DC Spotlight Volume 2 because, well, it's part of the Salkinds Superman producing stuff. When did you first see this? Do you remember?
I remember seeing it as like 5 or 6, and you know, you'll hear it in the Just the Facts. Like, I remember loving this movie as a kid because, you know, what did I know about movies or quality or acting? You know.
Oh wow! Yeah,
and when I say acting, I say that with all puns intended, because there's like 3 literally heavyweight actors of like some, you know, some range in this movie. And was it Peter O'Toole, Peter Cook, and Faye Dunaway, who, while there might not be my favorites, and just like I know them to be like big actors, and like what the
They're
hell?
big names.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what the hell are you doing here?
Maybe they needed to pay the bills that year.
Yeah, well, you know, it happens. I mean, you look at all the stuff that Christopher Walken does nowadays, but
Yeah, but okay, no offense to Walken himself, but Christopher Walken has turned into the world's internet meme, honestly, because the guy has so many tropes and so much comedy backbone to him, and everything that he does, that everyone wants to imitate it, everyone wants to be like him, and he's just in he's in everything. I mean, the dude went from a Bond villain to being a stuck-up, commie-hating father in Blast from the Past. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like he's one of those actors that isn't every man actor, where he will, doesn't matter how low a role may seem, he'll do it.
oh yeah, no, there's a bit of a divide, but just that goes to show, like, I mean, like I said, with some of these actors in today's film, it's just like, wow.
Well, yeah, I first saw this. Oh man, I think it was right after. Oh man, it was late. I wasn't 5 or 6. I was like 9 or 10, maybe 89, 90, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Because last week when Dan and I talked about Superman 3, this week you and I are talking about Supergirl, and next week Dan and I are going to take on A Quest for Peace. These 3 films, I pretty much saw them back to back to back between between the time they all released, pretty much. And it's like, not that they all released, but like like I would say between 88 and when did 4 come out? Was 4
87.
Yeah. Between 88 and 91, I had seen all 3 of these films, Superman 3, Supergirl, and Superman 4, like back to back to back to back to back. And honestly, like Dan and I said last week, I have no idea what my 9, 10-year-old brain was thinking enjoying Superman 3.
I know what my, that age brain was thinking, which I said in the JTF, because...
Yeah.
Boy.
With Supergirl, it's different for me anyway, and I'm pretty much betting that you and I are gonna basically draw a line in the sand, and one of us is gonna stand on one side, the other one's gonna stand on the other. I still enjoy this movie.
Oh, we'll get into it. I still kind of enjoy it, but not maybe in the same way that you do.
Yeah. So let's turn it over to your clone for the Just the Facts, and we'll be back after this.
Supergirl the movie centers on Kara Zor-El, Superman's cousin who lives in Argo City, a Kryptonian city that drifts through some sort of dimensional void after the destruction of Krypton. The city escaped the destruction of Krypton due to the Omega Hedron, a small but super powerful energy generator that the Kryptonian people utilize to create a protective environment that allows them to survive. It is here that Kara has grown up under the tutelage of Zoltar, a local artist and free thinker, who plans to leave the city and travel to Earth, much like Kara's cousin Kal-El did years previously. They also somehow know what happened to Superman on Earth after Krypton exploded. Must be some sort of dimensional Wi-Fi or something. Anyway, after showing Kara the space body while traveling, Zoltar reveals that he has stolen, or rather, borrowed, the Omega Hedron from the city in order to experiment with it. While talking with her mother, Zoltar allows Kara to play with the Omega Hedron. After using a matter-generating wand to create a statue of a dragonfly-like insect, Kara uses the Omega Hedron to bring it to life. The statue flies away and pierces the protective shell of the city, causing the Omega Hedron to be sucked out into the void. Knowing the city and everyone in it will expire without their power source, Kara enters and launches the space pod in order to retrieve it. Luckily, a wristband that Zoltar created for Kara can detect the Omega Hedron, and it leads the pod through the void after it. As the pod goes, Kara starts to develop superpowers, and her clothes inexplicably change into a female version of Superman's costume. Nearing the perimeter of the void, Kara ejects from the pod and flies out of a lake on planet Earth. She experiments with her newfound powers, using her heat vision to grow a flower and flying around the world before tracking the Omegahedron to the city of Midvale, Illinois. The Omegahedron itself is found by Selina, a wannabe witch who is apprenticed to a pompous warlock named Nigel. Discovering that the power of the sphere allows her to cast real magic spells, Selina dumps Nigel and takes off in his car. Selina returns to her lair, a dilapidated carnival spook house. There she meets with her assistant Bianca, declaring the tough times are over and the good times are ahead. The next day, Kara awakes in the forest near the Midvale Girls' boarding school. Deciding that she needs a base of sorts for her search, Kara scams her way into the school using her cousin's identity of Clark Kent as a reference, and takes the name Linda Lee. The principal assigns Linda to room with Lucy Lane, Lois Lane's kid sister, who also just happens to be nuts about the Man of Steel. Linda herself becomes smitten with Ethan, one of the school's groundskeepers. It's also revealed that Nigel the Warlock works at the school as a math teacher. While cruising near the school, Selina also sees Ethan and conspires to make him her consort. She lures him to the spook house and drugs him with a love potion-laced beer. But when Nigel shows up to harass Selina, Ethan wanders off into town. Using the magic power of the orb, Selina uses her mirror to track him down and then causes an excavator to come to life to try and capture Ethan. Linda and Lucy are nearby, having lunch with a visiting Jimmy Olsen.
Continuity! Boom.
And see the whole ordeal. Proving that Lois isn't the only member of the family with suicidal tendencies, Lucy climbs on board the excavator and tries to stop it, but is knocked out. Linda quickly changes to Supergirl and stops the rampaging machine, saving Lucy and then carrying Ethan away from the scene. Supergirl changes back to Linda and frees Ethan from the shovel, where he falls in love with her due to the effects of the potion. Watching from her lair, Selina then uses the Omegahedron to cast a spell to change her shadow into an invisible demon and sends it after Linda, not knowing who she really is. Under the cover of a lightning storm that evening, the demon attacks the girls' school looking for Linda, who dashes outside as Supergirl. After getting smacked around a bit, Supergirl grabs a light pole and flies up into the storm, charging it with lightning. Flying back to the school, she uses the lightning to blast the creature, which can only be seen between flashes of lightning, and destroys it. Following the fight, Linda uses her magic bracelet to track the Omegahedron to the carnival and finds Ethan, who's still under the potion spell. Having followed with flowers and candy, Ethan professes his love for Linda as they sit in an empty carousel, but Selina arrives and uses her powers to make the ride spin out of control. Linda changes to Supergirl and confronts Selina, and Selina tries to threaten Supergirl by transporting Ethan to the bumper cars, where he is almost crushed by the possessed ride. Supergirl traps Selina with some iron bars and then rescues Ethan before Selina frees herself. Selina contacts Nigel and proposes they realign against Supergirl, but that she needs Ethan as part of the plot. Nigel doesn't buy it and breaks the spell over Ethan. As the spell is undone, Supergirl tries to let a concerned Ethan know Linda is alright, as it turns out he really has fallen for her. Ethan and Supergirl kiss, and then he realizes that Supergirl is Linda. However, their joy is short-lived as Nigel and Selina use the Omegahedron and a magic wand to draw Ethan to the carnival. Selina then turns on Nigel, stealing the wand and using her new power to create a gigantic mountain fortress just outside of Midvale. Supergirl flies to the fortress to confront Selina and finds Ethan chained to the wall. But when she tries to approach him, Supergirl becomes trapped in a familiar piece of glass, the portal to the Phantom Zone. The wicked Selina mocks the Girl of Steel as she's sent into the zone, and when she crash lands, Kara is injured, discovering that her powers don't work anymore. Wandering the landscape, she nearly drowns in an oily bog before being rescued by Zoltar, who was cast into the zone after what happened in Argo City. Overjoyed to be reunited with her friend, Kara is then disappointed when Zoltar tells her there's no escape from the Phantom Zone. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Selina has used her power to start taking over Midvale, and then the world!
Of course!
Several of the townspeople, including Lucy and Jimmy Olsen, try to oppose Selina, but they are captured and brought to the fortress. Back in the zone, Kara continues to try and find a way out. Zoltar finally tells her about the rift, the entrance/exit to the Phantom Zone. The rift lays atop a mountain and is much like a tornado, the winds threatening to cast the two of them off the mountain as they climb up. Selina also watches through her mirror, using her power to try and knock them off the mountain with fireballs. Zoltar manages to get Kara onto a ledge where she'll be safe before he is knocked back into the void. Spurned on by Zoltar's sacrifice, Supergirl climbs out of the rift and flies back into reality through Selina's magic mirror. Supergirl and Selina then square off once again, with the witch threatening to drop the captive Jimmy Olsen, Lucy, and Nigel onto some red-hot pokers. Supergirl then quickly uses her super breath to shatter the spikes and freeze her friends before Selina uses the power of the Omega Hedron to summon another demon to destroy her. Caught in the creature's massive clawed hands, Supergirl nearly gives in, but Zoltar's encouraging words from before come to her and she breaks free. Using her super speed, Supergirl creates a vortex that sucks Selina, Bianca, and the demon back into the Phantom Zone, trapping them forever. Ethan returns the Omega Hedron to Supergirl, who tells her friends that she has to go back to Argo City. After taking everyone back to Midvale, Supergirl flies off to the portal she first arrived through. Ethan looks on as she leaves, saying goodbye, Linda, knowing that he may never see her again. The film ends with Supergirl returning the Omega Hedron to the city and its power lighting up the dimensional void once again. The first and only spin-off from the classic Superman film series, Supergirl opened in theaters on November 21st, 1984. The film was directed by Jeannot Swark, who also directed Jaws 2 in '78 and Santa Claus the Movie in 1985. The film starred relative newcomer Helen Slater as Supergirl, Faye Dunaway as the evil witch Selina, Hollywood legend Peter O'Toole as Zoltar, Hart Bochner as Ethan, Peter Cook as the pompous Nigel, Maureen Teefy as Lucy Lane, and Mark McClure as Jimmy Olsen, reprising his role from the Superman movies.
Continuity. Boom.
In what Superman series producers Ilya and Alex Salkind had hoped would be the first of a successful spin-off series, Supergirl performed poorly at the box office. Despite opening at #1 in its first weekend, the film turned out to be a box office bomb, bringing in only $14 million of its $35 million budget. Critics are not fond of Supergirl the movie, resulting in its 8% rotten rating on RottenTomatoes.com. Many reviewers criticized the director's work in the film, calling it flat and uninspiring. The late Roger Ebert wrote in his review that the film failed because it didn't play itself seriously like the first two Superman movies, and thus degenerated into camp. Ebert, however, did note that he loved Helen Slater's portrayal of Supergirl because she perfectly filled the role, much like Christopher Reeve did in Superman. Critic Dave Kerr, the Chicago Reader, said that he thought the film failed because director Swark tried and failed to emulate the romantic action elements of Richard Lester's work in Superman 2. And Janet Maslin of the New York Times commented on Helen Slater's performance, saying Slater performed well, but she didn't bring a lot of energy to the role. Now, despite her last name, Helen Slater is not at all related to Christian Slater.
Greetings and salutations.
But did you know that she has a connection to the Dark Knight detective? Miss Slater was the first actress to give voice to the daughter of the Demon's Head, Talia al Ghul, in Batman the Animated Series. She would also return to the Superman mythos in the TV series Smallville, where she would play Lara, Superman's birth mother, in several episodes. And did you know that Demi Moore was almost cast in the role of Lucy Lane? The future Mrs. Bruce Willis had to bow out due to scheduling conflicts with her work on the film Blame It on Rio. The character of Lucy was not the only one who producers had different actresses in mind to play. Dolly Parton was originally considered for the role of Selina, as well as Meg Ryan and Brooke Shields being courted for the role of Supergirl. And you'd think the Man of Steel would show up to say hello in his cousin's movie, but you'd be wrong. Christopher Reeve bowed out appearing in the film early on in production. So, the only mentions of Superman in the entire movie is the poster in Lucy and Linda's dorm room, a quick mention on the radio Superman is on a mission in deep space, and of course, Jimmy Olsen.
Continuity. Boom.
I remember as a kid absolutely loving this movie. I was way into the Superman movies as a kid, so it's not that much of a surprise that I latched onto this one. Back then, the movie thrilled and excited me, but now I laugh my ass off whenever I watch this. It's so full of campy fun and what the fuck moments that it's hard for me not to like it just a little bit. If you haven't seen this one yet and you're a fan of the Superman movie series, I'd say check it out at least once. This was Just the Facts for Supergirl the movie. I'm JT from Saskatoon, sending it back to the rest of the gang on today's M-Wire.
But they were sweet when they killed Ellis.
Well, thank you to Bizarro JT.
He's the sexy sounding mother.
No, not at all.
So yeah, Supergirl the movie.
Look smart.
And a snappy dresser too.
I wouldn't know. All right, so Supergirl. The plot is kind of.
It makes
the thing with me that I've become to the point now where, people have said to me, and I've seen people say, in other podcasts and online, oh, nostalgia is stupid, or fuck nostalgia, or whatever else. And honestly, it's not even nostalgia to me. I went into this knowing that it was a movie from 1984, and knowing what the technology was back then and how they were going to do this and accomplish it, and the story that they told. I'm sure once we get down into a little bit more of the trivia later that we'll see if they actually see. That's the thing. I don't know, because I don't read any of the. I've never read any of the Supergirl comics. I don't currently read any of the Supergirl stuff, so I don't know if this plot, this story, is accurate to anything that's in the comics.
Well, I'm going to speak blue for a second and say not even fucking close. About the only thing that came close to the fucking comic book in this movie was the costume, the casting of Helen Slater, and the use of magic as a major weakness, which is the only other thing that affects Kryptonians on Earth besides kryptonite.
Right.
Aside from that, this film is filled with almost 100% of pure what the fuckery.
Now, I will say that I much prefer magic over, hey, I don't know what this unknown... Tar. Let's just make it Tar. This is the final...
First of all, you can't really blame Richard Pryor for that. The guy...
No, I know
what you're saying. I'm just saying magic is literally about the only other thing...
Right.
Aside from, whatever level of extreme physical force Doomsday brought to bear on the Man of Steel.
Yeah.
So, magic is about the only thing, and I mean, just right off, I gotta say with this movie, it's a gender role reversal of the first Superman film.
You have to tell her origin. You have to tell,
But just all the roles, you got the Lex Luthor and the Otis of this film is, Selena and Bianca, and
but Bianca isn't that much of a ditz. Bianca is no female version of Otis.
Well, she's clearly more intelligent, but she's about as useful as Lenny Luthor.
Oh, God, I forgot. I tried to block that out of my mind. Oh, my God.
But
yeah, I'm gonna miss Otis next week.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's currently in the Smallville season 11 comics, so you do have that if you need. But yeah, no, I mean, I love how the movie opens. It's like, it's not outer space, it's not inner space. It's just that there's Argo City, which is the classic, stomping grounds, like the hometown of Supergirl from the comics, and yeah, they're like in inner space or in some sort of interdimensional void, and it's basically a sort of a Kryptonian commune almost.
Yeah.
And they just happen to have this, the magic MacGuffin, which is somewhere between the size of a Christmas orange and a baseball, that I'm surprised I could get out Omegahedron as many times as I did in the JTF.
Yeah.
So let's just call it the orb to be safe.
Yes.
So I mean, there's the Kryptonian city Argo. It survived the destruction of Krypton. It's floating through some dimensional void. It's powered by this orb, and one of its leading citizens is Peter O'Toole's.
Nigel.
Not
Nigel. Not Nigel. Zoltar.
Yeah, Zoltar. And I kind of dug, I seen a couple of movies when I was a kid with Peter O'Toole, and I kind of liked the guy. He had this kind of zest for life sort of thing. And it was very apparent as Zoltar, because, I mean, the guy honestly just doesn't give a fuck. I mean, you see what happens. He literally does it because he's got this matter-generating wand, that's just like making... What is that when Kara comes up? It's a tree. Okay. And then you see he's stolen the freaking power source for the entire city, and he's just screwing around with it. And then when Kara's mom comes up to talk to him about what, maybe the fact that he drinks too much, I don't know. And he drops it, kicks it over to the girl. And I'm not knocking Helen Slater. I'm not. It's just the way she looked with the makeup in this scene, but it looked like she might have some learning difficulties. Because her eyes, she was like that, what's a tree? And her eyes are so wide. And she just, it doesn't, her look doesn't scream intelligent young woman.
Right, and that's kind of the whole thing, both in Argo and when she gets to Earth as well. She's the character of Kara is portrayed as the writers or whoever the hell wrote the script.
Yeah,
they portray her as a dumb blonde in the 1980s. They just do, and that's not what she is. That's not what the character is at all. The character is more competent than what they wrote this version of her to be. Of course, we see that closer to the end of the film.
Yeah.
But
well, welcome to the 80s where scripts really didn't matter.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, it's just like the way she plays Kara initially, like she gets a little bit smarter when she gets to Earth, but on this first scene on, Argo, it's kind of like, tell me about the rabbits. So...
No, all right, let me ask you this, okay? Because you said it's pretty much a mirror of Superman the movie as far as the origin. Let's look at Superman the movie again. To my knowledge, from what we saw on Krypton, it was a completely technological planet. I didn't see any trees. I didn't see any farms. I didn't see any of that. And now we know that Jor-El has traversed the galaxies, and I use that as plural because he did many, searching for a planet for his son to go to if Krypton was eventually going to go boom, which it did. So I understand why Jor-El would know about rabbits and earth and trees and butterflies and all this stuff. But as you said, wherever Argo exists, whether it's in a pocket dimension, whether it's in some deep recesses of space, basically they say that it's a dome city.
Yeah.
That you can't leave. You cannot leave. So how is it that even with the Omega, orb of doom thing, even with that, how is Zoltar able to leave and learn all this crap to tell? Does he just use that, I assume? And that's how I would assume, because that's what she does. She uses it and a portal opens up in the middle of... She's essentially... Oh god, I just realized that. She's essentially the Lady of the Lake without Excalibur.
Very much so. And as far as them knowing about trees and, Kara talking to Zoltar, she makes mention of, like, my cousin Kal-El. I was like, well, like I said in the JTF, they've probably got interdimensional Wi-Fi or something. Or the little-known Kryptonian power of plot convenience.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's like, there's so many... It's like I said, it's the 80s, and they were literally, like, I know the Salkinds and Kinds, whatever, the producers, they weren't calling the audience idiots, but, I mean, there are so many, like, leaps in logic in the first 5 minutes that, plot holes the size of the friggin' Death Star could drive through. Like, how does he know what trees are? Because when you look at Krypton in the first Superman movie, it's, ice or all crystals, or, it's very much not, where would they get this information from? And it's not like we have to be told, well, they went to the cosmic, Deus Ex Machina, and they told them about this. Like, there's just, how do you know? It's like, did Jor-El tell Kara's dad about that? And that's how they know. Like, it's just some things aren't answered like that. And like I said, he kicks the orb over to Kara, who takes the twirly matter-generating wand and creates, of all things, a firefly while Zoltar's talking to Kara's mom. And this thing flies up and pierces... Okay, this is what pisses me off, and this is probably something I thought as a kid, too. If they're floating through fucking space... Don't you think you want to construct your hideout with something a little more sturdy?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, maybe it was super sharp or whatever. Fine, I get that. It's going to leave a mark. I don't think it should pierce the veil and suck... who knows how many people got sucked out into this interdimensional void, too. I mean, because the thing opens, explosive decompression happens, the orb gets sucked out into the ether... And about 5 seconds before this all happens, Zoltar gave Kara a little wrist doodad that is somehow capable of tracking the orb. And she shows some intelligence. She's like, oh, I done fucked up. I should probably fix this. So she crawls into this space pillow pad thing that Zoltar is going to take off in, and she goes out after it. I mean, you don't know if she's got her pilot's license. She clearly didn't get her parents' permission before she took off. And then she's just like, I'm going to go get the orb, derp-a-dur. Because, I mean, once she gets there, she becomes very intelligent, at least in my eyes. It's just, you didn't think for a damn second about what you're doing, did you, girl?
Nope.
Because she just takes off, and she's got this wide eye of going after the orb, leaving home for the first time, not even going to consider the ramifications of my actions. She's just...
Pretty much.
And, Zoltar's just standing there. He's just like, oh, darn.
Yeah, and he's like... Now, I did just watch this a couple of days before we did this recording, but I've been doing so much lately. I've been writing up so many reviews, recording so many podcasts that I forgot. Did he say he needed to be exiled to the Phantom Zone, or did the other people of Argo City basically say you're under arrest? I thought it was him that said he needed to be exiled to the Phantom Zone.
I think he said that to Kara's dad after...
Right, that's what I'm saying. After she took off, I'm trying to remember how the hell he got into the Phantom Zone.
I just watched this the other day, too. I'm pretty sure that's what happened is Kara's dad comes up, and he's all, what the hell?
Yeah.
And everyone speak with these very all the adults, anyhow, on Argo speak with these very flowery accents, these very British accents, which, and Zoltar's just... got this. That's why I love Peter O'Toole in this movie, man. Like, he's got this awesome 80s sweater on, he's kicking back like a rock star. He literally just exudes every inch of I don't give a fuck. I mean, You're about to be exiled to one of the worst planes of existence and known to Krypton society, and you're just kicking back. It's like, whatever.
I'm surprised that I know they probably wouldn't do this, and I know that they probably weren't going to approach Mr. Stamp again. I'm surprised that they didn't have... oh, no, wait a minute. They didn't go back to the Phantom Zone, did they?
No,
yes,
it shows up later in the film, but it's unlike anything that we've seen so far in the series.
No, I know it. No, I'm trying. What I'm trying to say is that it would have been interesting when the Phantom Zone scene is there later in the film, that they would have run into Zod, but I don't think that would have happened because of the events of the lesser version of Superman 2, which is the theatrical and more widely known version, other than that time-traveling double take. Ugh. Okay, so she gets to Earth, and...
somehow her chains spontaneously change into a Superman uniform or Kryptonian robes. And
Yeah.
and you see her. It's you almost kind of see when she's traveling in that silhouette. Her arms are coming up in like the flex pose, and she apparently the dimensional or the portal between dimensions is a lake in Illinois.
Hi, Neil.
Yeah, we can debate the finer points of interdimensional portals later, but
yes,
it's just, and this is the one thing that kind of bugged me about comic book or superhero movies in like the 80s and early 90s, like basically stuff pre-Blade, because you know Blade's kind of like we're going to take this shit serious now. How she pops out of the water and almost immediately is able to use her flight powers. She doesn't burn down the forest when she's staring at that flower. You know, it's very much the opposite scene of Zod and company landing in Planet Oostin in Superman 2.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, you need to... How does she know, like... Oh, okay, we all know at this point, Krypton is gone. Superman has had 3 adventures, 2 of which have been erased by time. Or altered by spinning the world backwards. Yay! Ugh, Richard Donner.
Kryptonian whiteout.
Stupid dick. So we know that Superman had his first 2 adventures, had his 3rd adventure. So we know, and we've established within these 5 films that they are, she is in that universe, and there's no, hey, I need to test this. Like, you watch, as much as people might hate this reference, you watch Superman Batman Apocalypse, the DC animated feature, where she finds herself on Earth, and she doesn't know what the hell, and her heat vision's going crazy, and she finds out she can fly upside down. You know what I mean? She's learning to use her powers as that animated feature goes on. Here, boom, she just knows. It's like they couldn't spend 5 seconds instead of her frolicking with a damn flower in the fucking forest. Like, actually, that's really, honestly, that's the only, like, test of her powers that she did, was the heat vision on the flower. And it seemed like, oh, hey, I have heat vision, that must mean I can fly.
Yeah, I would have accepted her having a little bit of difficulty flying, and then just bam, she knows how to use her powers. Like, there's that hint that she had to learn really doesn't come up. Because, I mean, as you see in short order, after she beats up the attempted rapists, and then she wakes up outside the girls' school. It's just, I love the fact she's another unknown Kryptonian superpower is the ability to basically morph your appearance at a moment's freaking notice. Because they have that thing where she's walking through the forest after she wakes up outside the school, like in the forest, and she walks behind a tree, and it's like Supergirl, Earth identity. Like, it's kind of like when Superman spins around in the spinning door in the first movie, and he just morphs from Clark Kent to Superman. She has that superpower. Mm-hmm. And then she basically bullshits her way into a food and lodging in this school. Like, she doesn't set the typewriter on fire, typing through it. She doesn't create, like, some sort of, like, small whirlwind, like, digging through the files at super speed. And really, how much an effective administrator is this principal, where the guy is gone for all of 30 seconds, and he comes back and he's like, oh, Lee, it's like, I went through this filing cabinet yesterday. I did not see this letter then. Like, he doesn't call her on anything,
Yeah.
And I mean, we gotta mention, before she even gets to Earth, we meet the villain of the piece, probably the least threatening sorceress in the history of film.
Okay, this is what I don't get. What is, before we see her whole, I want ultimate power deal, what is she's not a businesswoman. She's not a mad scientist. She doesn't have a bald head. She's not black, white, and red all over. She doesn't have a green suit. She knows nothing of kryptonite. She doesn't meld with Brainiac. What other Lex Luthor references can I make here? It's like...
Well, yes, and we're talking about the character of Selena, played by Faye Dunaway,
yes.
people.
Yes. Selena, the headmistress, the whatever you want to call it. I don't get what her deal is before she finds the Orb of Doom.
Well, they don't kind of massage it into our brains the way they do with a lot of villains, but no, I mean, she's from what you see, from what I got from watching the movie, she's apprenticed to this pompous douche named Nigel, who, when, Supergirl's conning her way into the school, he appears as like, hey, it's Nigel, and he's the math teacher here, and that is never brought into play again. The fact that he is Supergirl's math teacher.
Right, but what I'm saying with Selena is...
there's no clear scene where she's like, why is she gay? Well, I mean, maybe we're supposed to take that she's just this... she wants power, and she's just super greedy like that, and...
I guess, but it's never actively stated like you said. Nigel's day job is he's a math teacher. What is Selena's day job? The fact that she's, a skimpy hoe in ironclad bikinis? Blonde hair and a sword going up... Oh, I'm sorry, that's Bikini Tila. No.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where...
There's no motivation given to us,
yeah.
It's just...
There's nothing there at all.
Are you trying to say that redheads are inherently evil? I mean, and clearly she's got to have some kind of day job. I mean, as far as villains go, the motivation's not there, but she does have the prerequisite cool hideout, in the abandoned carnival spook house, where apparently
I was waiting for the Joker to pop up and just say, "Bitch, please, I'll handle this."
He's like, nice decorating, But yeah, but I mean, she's sitting there and they're having this picnic, and the orb shows up, and all of a sudden she knows this thing is like, her, the golden snitch for her. She takes it and she like jacks Nigel's car, goes back to the spook house. She goes in. We meet the Otis of the film, Bianca, who we've talked off air. She is far more intelligent than Otis, but she's about as useful as another member of the Luthor family tree that we'll meet in the 4th Superman movie. But I mean, we're talking about is like, why is she doing this? Does she have some sort of day job? We're assuming she does, because apparently she's paying cable and water bills.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that's so disbelievable about this film. You have someone who is supposed to be a villainess, who is supposed to be eventually this oh God. This would come years later, even though it came in 1983, but Selena is essentially Palpatine.
Oh God.
No. Hear me out. Don't get me wrong. I love Ian McDaniel's Emperor / Palpatine, but if you think about it, and you look at it in the context of Episode 3, that he said he had a master who taught him everything, and then he killed the master and became... You know what I mean? It's like her and Nigel have that kind of relationship, where he taught her everything, and now she's going to become more powerful than it's that back and forth.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, she shows up and she puts the orb in like this weird lead line dragon pot thing, which conveniently it's lead line because Supergirl's magic Deus Ex Machina detector stops working. It's just, my God, it's just like the leaps in logic in some of this movie. Like, I mean, you got Selena, and she's going to start using this to, get what she deserves. And we just kind of ignore Selena for like the next 10, 15 minutes. You go to the school, Supergirl, BS's her way in. The principal's like, okay, it's all legal. And
Did you just say Supermare?
Yeah, I said
horse?
I missed just brain fart. That's all it was. I wasn't trying to imply nothing.
Supermare. I can see a horse with Kryptonian powers.
Why not? They had Streaky the Super Cat. Just look up Silver Age super animals. You'll figure it out. So yeah, the principal. We get back to the Supergirl at the school. The principal's taking her to her room. And who does she end up rooming with? Wow, this isn't at all contrived. Lucy Lane, the younger kid sister of Lois, who we find out later on is no less suicidal than her big sister.
Yeah.
You know, and you see that Lucy, like her sister, is like all about the Man of Steel, and they have that sweet wall poster of Christopher Reeve, which is that and the radio announcement that Superman is out in a mission of peace with some alien society in deep space is all we got of Christopher Reeve in this movie.
See, now, okay, the Salkinds produced all 5 of these films, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't have the same director for all 5 films, correct?
Nope.
Okay, here's the thing. As a producer, what I would have done is, instead of saying he's off in space fighting some aliens for a quest for peace, I would have teased the next film, even if they didn't know about it. Like, I would have said he's off on a quest for peace against some superpowered nuclear guy. You know what I mean? It would be cool if they had done that, to the fact that, hey, we're basically telling you what the next film is going to be. You know?
But yeah, but I mean, even with some, again, being the 80s, and like, don't get me wrong, like, we all love the 80s here at the GCRN. Right.
Oh, yes.
But even with some of the lengthier series that came out in the 80s, primarily horror movies, there isn't all that much set up between the films. I mean, there's continuity, but you really don't discuss it until about 20 minutes in. So, but yeah, I mean, you got the Lucy Lane. Well, of course, you got to have something to connect the films in a way. Oh, wait, let's bring in, Mark McClure as Jimmy Olsen, who's dating Lucy Lane, and it's not at all creepy.
Well, no, wait a second here. Is it really that creepy that Jimmy would be dating Lucy?
The characters dating and they've done so in the comics. In the movie, this is downright creepy, because Mark McClure looks about age 30 going on 18, and Maureen Teefy, who played Lucy Lane, ironically, Mark McClure's like early 20s about this point, I believe, and Maureen Teefy had about 6 years his elder. So it's kind of balances out in the end. It's just, as a kid and kind of now just looking at it, he looked way too old, or not way too old, but just he's way older than Lucy. Because Maureen Teefy had this whole, she had the sweet, innocent look going on. But I mean, while going through the school, Supergirl sees the gardener Ethan, who is played by a guy named Hart Bochner, who we all know as Ellis from the first Die Hard. I found out in my research.
Wait a second. Are you meaning to tell me that
the douchebag that got taken out by
that's Ellis?
That is Ellis.
Oh my god.
He doesn't have the beard. You couldn't see it at all. I didn't know until just kind of going back over my notes. I was like, I can't believe I didn't mention that before.
I didn't even realize, But we got to think, though. This is before, he was really beefed up in this movie. He was almost like a bodybuilder in this movie, the way they made him look. And when he gets to Die Hard 4 years later, he's a skinny little stoner.
Yeah.
But, wow.
Yeah, no, that is Ellis. So, Supergirl is just like, yowza. And then, coincidentally enough, at the same time, Selena is cruising by the school, and Lord knows why, she's either stalking Nigel or stalking Nigel.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
And it's not even, she just sees him, he's like, you know what, I need a stud. He looks good, let's do it. Whereas Bianca is just kind of like, hello, nurse. you know. That's really all that it is, but I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
But I mean, so Selena's on the whole thing. He's like, I'm going to use him, and she basically slips him a roofie and attempts to rape him. I mean, that's
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to boil a spider in the."
Oh yeah,
just that whole thing. Like, it's again, she's supposed to be a witch. Now, I'm not asking for Wicked Witch of the West, like cackling and flashes of power while she's boiling over a thing, but it just, this is like, there was no effort put into the fact that they just basically said she's a witch. And then you see her there making a pot of mac and cheese. Which is all it really looks like. Oh, you're going to put the spider in the walnut and oil. Like, there's no real, and I'm not asking for a lot, but there's no real setup as to how magic kind of works in this movie. It's just like, oh, he's a warlock and she's a witch in training and they can do stuff.
Yeah. This is basically Superman meets Harry Potter.
Yeah. That's a sad thing. You're not.
I know.
I don't
not
disagree.
wrong.
I don't, but I mean, moving along, you see Selena, drugs him, and then Nigel shows up to cause some shit. And then Ethan wanders off into town, and he's all like, he looks like he's all strung out and drunk. And Jimmy Olsen is not that nice about it. It's like, he's probably strung out on drugs. He'll get run over. Like,
yeah, no, Jimmy wasn't.
I'm not saying that to be funny. That's very much how Jimmy Olsen acts people. Like, he basically looks at Ethan stumbling around all drunk in the middle of traffic. He's like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, Jimmy wasn't a nice guy in this movie.
Yeah, and then.
He wasn't the, gee Willikers, Chief, I'll get right on that, or Mr. Kent, Superman, okay. He wasn't, like, I think after 3 films, Jimmy kind of cracked.
Yeah.
Jimmy cracked the corn and he didn't care.
Yeah, it's just... Oh, wow. And then Scavenger of the Constructicon shows up as Selena casts a spell that she takes control of a steam shovel that comes running after Ethan. It's like, I'm going to take you to my master. Oh, wait, the thing didn't talk at all. It just took off on its own. And like I said, Lucy shows that she really has no concept of her own mortality. She runs out, climbs into this thing, and tries to stop it. And she gets knocked out.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then, Supergirl shows up. Linda changes, Supergirl flies in, doesn't look at Lucy at all. Like, is like, oh, hey, it's my roommate and kind of friend. I should check it out. No, I'm just going to take this guy trapped in the shovel part and fly off somewhere and, check him out.
Yeah, it's not very well thought out writing at all. The one thing that really bugs the hell out of me out of this movie, and again, you could tell me because you know more of comics history than I do, the identity thing. Is Linda Lee something that has happened in the comics?
Yeah, no, Linda Lee is the classic identity of Supergirl.
Okay, because wait, she's the what?
She's the classic, identity of Supergirl when she showed up in like the 50s, where you've seen that comic cover where they'll crash rock and she flies out and she's like, hey cousin, let's have adventures.
See, that's the thing with this film. I don't know why her real name has to be the secret. Like, she lands, she's Kara, she's Supergirl, and then, oh, hey, I need a secret identity, more secret than my own identity, because people aren't just going to realize if I put glasses on that I'm super... I don't get that. I don't like it about the movie that that there's 3 identities. I don't mind 2 identities like Clark Kent, Superman, but the 3 identity thing in this did not work for me whatsoever.
Well, I mean, Kara, Supergirl are pretty much, the same person.
I know they're the same person,
but there's no what do you call it, impetus or whatever of why she needs a secret identity. Why?
Yeah, I mean really, yeah. There's no reason whatsoever.
Unless we're supposed to make that leap that I'm going to be flying around in this suit with this blonde hair, and I can't just change clothes. I should, change kind of altogether. But yeah, the fact that I would have let put yourself in Ethan's shoes, even if you are juiced up on this love potion that Selena slipped him, a magical Mickey, as it were. Yes. When you see the shovel being pried open by this young slip of a girl, are you going to fall in love with her, or are you going to be a little bit scared that this, 120 pounds soaking wet pried open the heavy gauge metal that is, a piece of construction equipment? I'm just saying. But the one thing, as far as all magic goes in this movie, one of the things that bothers me is during this whole scene, you see the Omegahedron in the dragon pot starts acting up. Like it's rattling around, like, it's full of vim and vinegar and all that. And later on, it really starts, like, the pot's literally jumping off the floor and it's acting violently.
Yeah.
And the pot, it grows. It grows a set of dragon tits. I'm not being fun. That's actually this dragon-topped pot grows a set of tits.
Yeah, it does. He's not kidding, folks.
And then the sad thing is, this thing, which has absolutely no bearing on the rest of the movie, is more of an interesting discussion topic than the plot of the film.
Yeah.
But I mean, moving along, Ethan falls in love with Linda, and later on that night, like, in kind of a creepy scene, like, Selena uses the power of shadow to send this invisible monster after Supergirl / Linda. And the scene where the monster shows up at the school is actually kind of cool in a special effects kind of way, because you see, like, ground crumbling and walls crumbling and a car gets crushed and all looks pretty cool. And meanwhile, there's this lightning storm and Linda's inside. She's, like, making out with herself in a mirror because she's all hot for Ethan now.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I know, can you describe the fight that she has with the monster? Because I really have no idea what's going on here.
No clue. It's a fight between Supergirl and a monster.
Yeah, an invisible monster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. It's like, It's
the Nothing from the Never-Ending Story.
Yeah, it's that, or to use a more modern reference, it's like Selena went to Dr. Doofenshmirtz and said, "Hey, I need to borrow your Invisinator," because in one of the episodes, in one of the episodes of Phineas and Ferb, Dr. Doofenshmirtz, the evil pharmacist, scientist, whatever, it's the lab coat, they get it confused. He creates an Invisinator where if you're already invisible, if you get hit by the ray again, it makes you visible. So there's a scene in the episode where he and Perry the Platypus are either a top or a bottom. And I don't mean that in the blue way. I mean, like, you can either see their legs or their torso. And it's like, that's what this fight reminds me of, is like, something's invisible, and in order for you to not know where it is, it needs to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you followed the sound of my voice. Punch.
I get that. What bothers me is the fact that you almost see it between flashes of lightning.
I think that was kind of the point, though, with the style of the film, and they wanted you, because they're not going to spend all this money on an effect that no one can see, or on a prop that no one's going to be able to see. So, yeah.
Yeah, and suffice to say, the way she dispatches the creature makes absolutely no sense. I mean, Supergirl, she rips up a light pole, flies up into the storm, somehow absorbs lightning into the metal, and comes back down and electrocutes the monster to death.
Yeah, she was a Kryptonian lightning rod, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And most of the time when invisible monsters die in most media, it becomes visible. You know, we couldn't see the giant corpse. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, you know, it would have made more sense. And so the monster's dead, and all of a sudden her wrist tracker activates again because the orb's out of the dragon pot with the big tits.
Right.
And she falls into the carnival, and apparently love in the Supergirl universe means you stalk the object of your affections, because that's what Ethan does.
Well, all right, but let's bring this up now. Superman was stalking Lois. Clark Kent was using his vision to see what was in her purse. You know, so stalking in the Superman universe it should be like, okay, that happens.
It's a family tradition.
I mean, it's not anything new that we haven't seen to this point.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, no, I mean, Linda tracks the Omegahedron, the orb, to the fairgrounds. Ethan shows up. And I'm not saying that Ethan isn't an intelligent character, but unless this guy has got a bachelor, like a lit degree, a literary degree that isn't doing him nothing, that's why he's doing yard work, he starts quoting basically Shakespeare. Like, he's composed a sonnet about his love for Linda, and she's just kind of like, well, I mean, she's Kryptonian. She doesn't really know a hell of a lot about human society, so she's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
And they start, you know, they're about to make out in, like, the bumper cars where Selena shows up and uses...
The fucking bumper cars. Oh, my God.
Well, they were on a carousel, and then the bumper cars came in.
Yeah.
She starts spinning it around so much that, you know, Selena, Bianca, and, you know, Ethan assume that Linda, being of all 110 pounds soaking wet, gets flown into the next county. Because, you know, Selena's like, you're mine. And Supergirl shows up and, leave him alone, bitch.
Yeah.
And probably the greatest non-fight that we'll have in this movie, where Ethan's sent into the bumper car area and he's almost killed by the possessed bumper cars. And Supergirl throws these, like, giant rods that kind of fence in Selena. And it's just, you know, all of a sudden you don't even see what Selena does. She's just standing there. Oh, what the hell? And you see them bend over. And I mean, honestly, the scariest thing in this movie up to this point is Ethan almost getting taken out by the bumper cars.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay. You know, so he gets knocked out again. Supergirl dumps him into the bumper car. She flies. What is it with her? And just, like, I'm not saying you gotta stay close to the action, but why do you have to? She clearly flew, like, a couple of 100 miles away or something. Because next thing you know, she's outside this lake again. And okay.
Yeah. It's very, very strange.
And I mean, now they kind of sort of start ramping up for the big, you know, into the third act here. And, you know, Selena, like, there's a scene we kind of glanced over where Selena, with this new power of the orb, tries recruiting, like, more witches.
Right, yeah.
Coven, and it looks more like a bad 80s dinner party, you know, and, you know, Nigel shows up and Selena basically tells him to go screw again. But after Supergirl takes off with Ethan, she contacts him again, and he brings, I can't remember what they call it, he brings in this evil magic wand.
Yeah.
And, you know, they use it to, like, Ethan and Supergirl having a moment. He's kind of clicked to the idea that she's Linda, and he really does love Linda. And we kind of glance over this, but it's almost a non-point because it really doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense that he would know that, hey, this dark-haired beauty is also this blonde bimbo.
Well,
it makes absolutely no sense.
It makes no sense, and there's really no setup really for him to figure this out, but he basically breaks the no glasses disguise of Linda having blonde and then brunette hair.
And see, that's the thing. Like, that's why I don't like the third identity.
Well, it's not really a third identity. It's just a different set of clothes.
To me, she changed her entire appearance except her face. To me, it's a third identity in my personal way of thinking. It just is. And there's, like, even Lois is smarter than this. You know what I mean? Like, sure, Lois has had her moments over the years where she doesn't know that Clark is Superman, or she doesn't figure it out right away. But even every now and then, she comes around and figures it out. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and then Superman takes her, and they dive off the side of the building, and they fly, and he kisses her, and, you know, it's... You'd think she would... I mean, this is something from the fourth Superman movie. You'd think she would develop a tolerance to the super roofie.
Yeah.
So, anyway, you know, Selena and Nigel have teamed up, and they whammy Ethan back to the lair, and Supergirl comes calling, and Selena basically steals the wand, kicks Nigel to the curb, and all of a sudden this power allows her to create this giant monolithic mountain just outside of the town with, like, this kind of mansion-esque, you know, headquarters on top, and Supergirl flies in, and Ethan's chained to the wall, and she goes towards him, and all of a sudden she's stuck in the Mystic album cover that is the Phantom Zone portal.
Phantom Zone, yeah.
And she gets sucked into the Phantom Zone, and Selena's all wicked and evil and mocking her, and I've won. You know, you almost want to hear the dun 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 sound effect here, and okay, now because we talked a little bit before about the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone obviously is more than like the flying album cover. And this one, you actually get a look at it. You know, it's like dark and foreboding, and it's basically, you know, Mount Doom and Lord of the Rings kind of territory here. And it's Supergirl. I mean, then they kind of approach something they never haven't done in any of the Superman movies, in that you know, she's human here, you know, because she hurts herself when she lands, and she almost drowns in like a bog, and she's rescued by, big surprise, Zoltar.
No.
Because clearly her father isn't going to come and try and rescue his daughter.
Well, again, that's why I asked earlier about what, like, was it the Argo City people, or was it Zoltar that said he needed to be exiled? And really, honestly, Zoltar is her father. I don't give a shit what the cast credits say about Zor-El and whatever.
He's clearly had more of a hand in raising her.
Exactly. Like...
But maybe that's how it is in this, you know, like I said, it's basically a Kryptonian hippie commune, so maybe everyone is everyone's parent, and we're all children of the one people, and, oh, look, the moon is in the third, you know, clearly it's different from the very, you know, let's not have a sense of humor, or consider the possibility that our planet might blow the fuck up, Krypton of the first Superman movie.
Yeah. So basically, she and Zoltar talk. They have, you know, father-daughter moment, blah, 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 blah.
He keeps offering her squirt, which is probably some sort of Kryptonian alcohol. And I was like, really, dude? You've been in here for all of 3 days, and you're already hitting on your one-time student? Classy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was more creepy to me than the age difference between Lucy and Jimmy.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Because he's hitting on his student, or is it creepy because it's Peter O'Toole?
It's creepy because he's hitting on a student, and he's, what, 3 times her age?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, at least 3 times her age. So she somehow breaks...
Well, she keeps bugging him about trying to find a way out, and at this point you can see Zoltar's kind of checked out. He's like, I don't care, I'm just going to drink, click, 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 click. You know, and then let's think about it. Then he breaks down and tells her that there's, the what do you call it? The rift. It's the entrance exit to the zone. Really? It took, and I'm going to swear again here for a second. I apologize to our listeners, but it took a nuclear fucking weapon to release Zod and company in the second movie.
Yeah.
And she climbs up a mountain with bad weather conditions.
Yeah, that's
what the fuck?
That's not a good plot device at all.
Yeah, and then Selina's got the requisite magic mirror because evil sorceresses all have magic mirrors, because otherwise how would they talk to each other?
Yeah.
And she starts sending fireballs down, and then for some reason Zoltar is like, I don't care, so he basically allows himself to be taken by the winds and killed, and just before he sacrifices himself, quote unquote, he gets Supergirl up onto a ledge, and she flies out of the portal back through Selina's mirror into reality, and it's, ding ding, round 2.
Yeah, pretty much. And round 2 is fairly quick.
Yeah, first of all, she does the classic, it's a classic, quote unquote supervillain trope to have the hostages in cage spheres hanging over, red hot pokers that, wow, what shade of orange paint is that? Because, the red hot pokers didn't look at all, threatening.
No, nothing about Selina in the entire movie is threatening. Nothing at all.
The only time she gets threatening is where she starts doing that power of shadow, give me a diet Sprite, where she starts casting a spell, quote unquote. She's sitting there, doing the whole arms out, looking vaguely zombified, casting a spell. And then you see that the dragon pod is turned into like this dragon staff with big tits. Like, I keep coming back to this, but why in the fuck would the power of the orb cause this lead-lined pot to not even like grow and change shape, but Jesus! Anyway.
Alright, so to wrap up the plot discussion here, basically
big
the
monster,
final well, what?
There's the big, the monster, tries to crush Supergirl.
Yeah, that doesn't work. And
basically she has the Obi-Wan Kenobi moment with Zoltar's ghost.
Oh, Christ. So basically, yeah, that all happens, and of course, as we already kind of said, Ethan knows that Linda and Supergirl one and the same, blah, 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 doesn't care, doesn't, knows that he may never see her again, blah, blah, blah. And the final scene shows her returning to Argo City, a darkened Argo City, which promptly lights up as soon as they plug the sphere back into its outlet.
Indeed, but you got to mention one thing. Supergirl and Superman fight evil the same way in their movies. She doesn't turn back time, but she flies around really fast and sucks Selina, Bianca, and this monster back into the Phantom Zone. You can almost hear the.
But it's not changing time. It's not changing time. It's reversing the effects. It's kind of like hitting rewind when someone drops a glass.
True.
It's not like I don't have a problem with what she did because it's not her trying to turn time back and yeah, I'm okay with that. I honestly am because. It's not that same damn plot device that they used in the first 2 movies. And if the producers, and I think I said this in the Superman 1 and 2 episode with Dan, if the producers would have just ponied up the friggin' dough and just let Donner tell his story, blah, 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 whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, like I said, film ends with the city coming back to life, blah, blah, blah. The cast here. We've got Helen Slater as Linda Lee Supergirl, Kara Zor-El, Faye Dunaway as Selina, Peter O'Toole as Zoltar, Ellis from Die Hard as Ethan, Mia Farrow as Allura.
Supergirl's mom.
Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't say L at the end of it, so... Brenda Vaccaro as Bianca, Peter Cook as Nigel, Simon Ward, Mark McClure, Maureen Turfey, David Healy, and Sandra Dickinson as the PYT. Only Michael Jackson fans will get that reference. Let's talk about Helen Slater here, because I hadn't realized how much stuff she did after this. She's in everything. Let's see here. Chris.
Well, there's Legend of Billie Jean.
Right. She was... the most thing that most people will know is she was Bonnie Rayburn in City Slickers. I need to go back and watch City Slickers, apparently.
Well, she was also in Secret of My Success. You know, when you look at the wiki, I was like, one of my favorite Michael J. Fox films. I mean,
right.
You know, she did, like I said in the GTF, she was the first voice of Talia al Ghul on Batman TAS.
Yeah.
And she came back on Smallville and played Superman's mom.
That was for me, like, when I'm not thinking about this movie in standards of like reviewing it and just watching it for enjoyment, that for me, when she came back to do Lara L, I was like, oh my god, hell yeah. Can you imagine if they took her and took Laura Vandervoot and made it Daughters of Krypton and had them, you know, have Helen be the original Supergirl and have Laura be the modern day. That would be so awesome if there was a series for that, but sadly there won't be. She's in several episodes of Law and Order. She was in an episode of Boston Public. She was in The New Adventures of Old Christine, Crossing Jordan, Supernatural. She was in that. Recently, as of 3 years ago, she was in an episode of Private Practice in 2011. She was in Rock the House. 2011 to the present, she has a recurring role as a series regular on The Lying Game. Lying Game is an American teen drama television series produced by Enterprises. It's one of the ABC family. It's like Pretty Little Liars, all that stuff. I love Helen Slater. She's a great actress.
And perfectly cast as Supergirl. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's, you know, kind of like I think it was Ebert that said, you know, it was almost serendipitous that, you know, she was the perfect cast member for Supergirl, just how Christopher Reeve was like perfectly suited for Clark Kent Superman. So
yeah, moving on to Faye Dunaway here. She's done, before Supergirl, she did a lot of really cool films. After Supergirl, she did a lot of good stuff. Most people might know her from The Two Jakes. She was a voice in that. Let's see, what's more recent?
Well, she was at The Two Jakes or Chinatown? I think it was Chinatown, wasn't it?
No, she's in The Two Jakes. I'm looking at the Evelyn Murphy or Mulray, the voice, 1990. Let's see, Don Juan DeMarco. She was in that movie. She was in Dunstan Checks In. So again, I guess she needed a paycheck that year. Because yeah, that movie.
And the classic albino alligator.
Yeah.
Oh God! Looking at some of she was in I completely forgot she was in Thomas Crown Affair.
I know, I did too. I was just looking at that. I was going to say that. I completely forgot that she was in that. Let's see, what else?
Oh, she was in Anonymous Rex, which, well, clearly that was a decent sci-fi-esque movie, but, you know, again, paycheck.
Yeah, she was in an episode of Grey's Anatomy, so she's got an amazing filmography as well. Peter O'Toole, let's see, Peter O'Toole filmography. Okay, started in 1960. Did some really, really cool things between that and Supergirl. Recently, obviously he passed away Oh wait, did he pass away? Wait, one of these actors passed away at some
Yeah,
point.
I'm looking here, dude.
He,
Holy shit, he's still alive.
Which one passed away? There was one of them that passed. I swear, I looked at this. I looked at the main actors that. Oh, Peter Cook.
Yeah, because I'm looking here. The movies I know him from in the 80s was The Stuntman, where he played like this pretty well psychotic kind of director. It's kind of
Peter Nigel is who I was thinking of, but I saw it. And Nigel, the character of Nigel, Peter Cook, the actor, passed away. Yes. Yeah. But no, Peter O'Toole's still alive. He's still kicking. He's
in King Ralph. Jesus.
Yeah.
Phantoms with Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo.
Yeah. Bird, bitch, Phantoms like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith.
Yes.
He was in Ratatouille.
Oh, Peter O'Toole, why?
He's done TV too,
Yeah, he's done a bunch of stuff. The
guy's got a career.
Yes, he does.
Lack for work, so.
Yeah, it's interesting that Hart Bochner, or whatever the hell he say his name.
Bochner.
Yeah, he didn't do much.
No, I mean, the only thing I recognize him from when you look at his, his IMDb. I mean, there's Terror Train, which is an early horror film it's a horror film that I've seen anyhow. He was looking at Crossing Jordan, like pretty much everyone's done that show. I remember him mostly from being like the main villain in Urban Legends Final Cut, the horror movie sequel. He was Arthur Reeves in Wow, he was in Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was like the
I'll go back and watch that again.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that either.
Then you got, Mark McClure. Well, aside from being Jimmy Olsen in the movies, and I think he showed up in Smallville at some point.
Yeah, they did all kinds of references to that.
Yeah. Wow, he was in all three Back to the Futures. According to his...
yeah.
Wow, I mean, yeah, so, I mean, that's... You got some stars. You got some stars just starting in this movie. I mean, the movie itself, it wasn't a bomb, but because you never can tell what. Everyone's got a different definition for a movie bomb. I mean, it made more or less half its money back at the box office, and it's. So it financially bombed, but some critics liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, some fans, it's just, my God, this movie just. I mean, you look at just the movie itself. It's. I'm gonna say it's competently made, which is the nicest thing I can say about this. Doesn't make a lick of freaking sense.
Yes. So, getting into some of the other stuff here. The main thing that's interesting to me is that the soundtrack by Jerry Goldsmith, the 1993 Silva Screen album with 23 tracks, is actually in iTunes. I never thought the score to Supergirl would be in iTunes.
Yeah. What? I mean, again, that's probably the one thing I remember the most about this movie, like having watched it just like a couple of days ago, is the score was very good, and you get Jerry Goldsmith's take on the Superman music. Like there's a bit of a refrain in there that's reminiscent of the John Williams. I mean, originally, like I said in Superman 1, Goldsmith was up for the role of composer in the first Superman film. So I mean, he put his effort here. The one thing that I and this is the absolutely, like, there's no way you could explain this to me, is the poster for the film. If you go to the Wikipedia article and you look at the Supergirl poster, it's, you know, her first great adventure, because this was supposed to be a spin-off film and they're going to make more movies. And this never didn't mention it when we're talking about the movie here. It basically takes in and around Midvale, Illinois, which is essentially a suburb of Chicago.
Oh, so you're gonna, I know exactly what you're gonna bring up.
Whereas the poster, you clearly see her swirling around the Statue of Liberty with the two towers in the background. I'm just saying, doesn't make sense. You know, it's like a lot of this movie doesn't make sense.
Well, the Superman movies don't make sense because they actively portray Metropolis as New York.
Well, yeah, I mean that's
you know,
that was the basis ever since the golden age of comics. But I get what you're saying.
I know that, yeah, and I see what you're saying as far as that goes. I am so happy that when I got images for the podcast art and stuff for this spotlight here in MWire, that I got them. Our good buddy Michael Wilson so long ago, because this spotlight here was supposed to have been done like back in episode 40 of MY. It was supposed to be done after we finished the Batman spotlight that we did, and we never got around to it. So I've been sitting on these images of the menu screens from the DVD sets. Basically, I had Michael Wilson wipe out the titles on the DVD sets where it's, you know, play, the menu things. And I had him wipe those out, and Steve Megatron touched them up. And I've been holding on to these images for so long just to use for this, because I was not going to use a poster of Supergirl flying through New York when it never effing happened in the movie at all. So I think what we're going to do now is, because we've been talking for one long-ass time here, we are going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with our final thoughts and a rating for the film. We'll be back after this.
Coming to Grand Rapids, Michigan on September 21st and 22nd is GrandCon Gaming and Comics Convention, presented by Celebration Cinemas. Join us in playing or chatting it up with fellow enthusiasts in a community that understands your passions. Get lost in the adventure of your favorite role-playing game. Admire costumes and art from vendors and attendees. Meet the creators behind your favorite mainstream and independent games and comic books. Check out unpublished games and sneak peek at things to come. You can get all this and more at GrandCon. For more information, please visit www.grand-con.com.
We are back, and alright, final thoughts on Supergirl, sir.
Yeah. As much as I like the Supergirl costume, because I did kind of read the 80s era Supergirl comic book. I basically read everything I could get my hands on as a kid. And if you go to the wiki article and you look at the deleted material, there's an image of the prototype costume, which is basically Supergirl with a headband. You know, it's straight out of the 80s, and I think that would have made this movie a little bit better for me if they had used that particular getup. But overall, I mean, like I said before, I loved the movie as a kid, because what did I know then? And I was mildly entertained by it now. I mean, I laughed my ass off most of the time watching this movie and doing the JTF and, you know, before the podcast here. So, you know, I like it. It's not perfect. It's not that good, but it's okay.
Yeah, I still love this movie. I really do. Like, I know a lot of people on the internet are like, oh, well, you can't say... There's some people I've seen that they say that, oh, I hate the phrase, this is a turn your brain off kind of movie. Well, there are movies like that where you just turn your brain off and you just enjoy them. And this is one of those ones for me. Even as a kid it was, and even now it is. It's not a movie I'm going to watch once a year, once every 6 months. It might be a movie I watch every 4 or 5 years. And to this point, up until this recording, I hadn't seen it in at least 15 years. So, it's not something that I'm going to watch. It's not an Iron Man 3. It's not an Iron Man. It's not a Spider-Man 2. It's not any of that. But it is still good old-fashioned, classic, strange, weird fun.
Yeah.
So here at MWire, we are adopting the GCRN Universal Rating System, which is the rating system that we use for most of our written stuff. Basically, 0 to 5 stars. There are halves in there as well. And I am going to give this a 3-star, which means I liked it. As far as actually analyzing it, my rating for the film for MWire would be 3 stars, that I liked it. My personal feeling on the film is that I really, really, really love it, because it's just so, it's just so good to go back and look at it. It really is. Like I said before, I don't think I will ever watch, outside of the first Superman film, honestly, I don't think I'll ever go back and watch the other Superman films again, unless it's the Lester version of Superman 2. But yeah, so I give it 3 stars out of 5. What about you, sir?
I give it the 3.5, because I do kind of remember it fondly, as coming from a kid. And like I said, I did laugh, but I still got a lot of enjoyment out of the movie.
Yeah.
And, it's Helen Slater in that suit. It's just like, you know what? Not going to argue with that one.
No.
She is still very attractive today. I mean, back then, it's still, damn.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, overall, I enjoyed the film. It is what it is. And, we can harp about, inconsistencies and everything. But, yeah, I enjoyed it.
I really wanted to see Laura Vandervoort in the suit, though. If they ever do a Supergirl television series, or if they ever do a new Supergirl movie, she has to be the one to play the character. Oh my God. Smallville. Oh boy.
Yeah.
And I need to change something here. I am giving it 3.5, because 3.5 is liked it. 3 stars is barely passing. So.
Yeah.
And I will put the Universal Ratings link in this post so people can see what we're talking about. But yeah, no, that's the Supergirl episode. Next up, we've got Superman 4: Quest for Peace. It's going to be really interesting, that episode of the podcast, because Movie Revolt Dan has never seen that film up till this podcast next week.
Oh, I hope he didn't break himself.
Well, yeah. Let's hope.
I mean, that's just. There is, and you'll hear it in my JTF, folks. There is a leap in logic involving the villain, quote unquote, that Superman fights in that movie. That it is 100% pure what the fuck. But you'll hear that next time.
Yeah, we'll hear that next time. So thank you for joining us here on MWire. We will catch you next week in the DC Spotlight as we head to 1987's Superman 4. And as I said at the beginning of this podcast, because I watched these movies when I was 9 or 10, which is basically 2 years after their, obviously Supergirl was a number of years, but specifically Superman 4 was 2 or 3 years after it released. There's going to be a lot of... you're going to wonder what Superman and Madonna have in common. So I will leave you with that.
Oh, jeez.
Keep those film reels rolling.
You've just listened to Movie Week in Review on GeekCastRadio.com. If you would like to leave feedback on the show, there are many ways to do so. First, you can visit the website, GeekCastRadio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. Be sure to rate our show on iTunes and leave us feedback. You can follow us on Twitter at GCRN_MWire. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can email us at feedback@geekcastradio.com. Call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.
In a world, there, I said it, happy,